The rooster crowed just once, then fell silent, as if even it had lost breath at the sight in our yard. My eyes locked on the coffin. Child-sized, no longer than a cooking bench, it rested on two shaky stools outside our home. Flies gathered on the nail heads. The air smelled of wet earth and candle smoke, though dawn had barely begun to push its way through the sky. I stood beside the box, my palm pressed flat against the lid, as if by that small weight I could keep the world from carrying it away. It was the 4th time in 3 years my hand had rested on wood this small and cold. Inside lay my last baby girl. Her cheeks had already lost their color. Her tiny fingers were bound with a strip of white cloth. Across the red soil, David stared into nothing. His hand kept brushing at his eyes, though no tears had come for hours. Between us, his mother, Margaret, leaned on her cane. Her sharp eyes flicked from the coffin to my face. "Bury quick," she muttered, her voice low, "before the sun climbs." 2 hired men lowered the box. The rope creaked, as though it, too, mourned. I tried to whisper a prayer, but no sound left my lips. The first shovelful of soil struck the lid with a hollow thud, and my heart clenched so tight I thought it might break in two. Somewhere behind me, the rooster crowed again. Then silence fell so heavy it choked the air. By midday, the whispers had begun. On clay roads, news runs faster than water. At the well, I heard the women shake their heads. 4th daughter, 4th grave. Something is wrong in that house, one said. Maybe the wife's milk is cursed, another whispered. And old midwife Ruth, who had heard all my babies cry, murmured, "The babies were born strong. I heard them cry." At the plantain stall, men weighed their bunches and traded darker words. "A family without sons is like a tree without roots," said one in a blue cap. "But 4 dead girls?" another muttered. "Even spirits know when to stop." Children loitered at corners, told to fetch water but eager for gossip. Their voices carried into homes. "Grandma says Mrs. Margaret wants a grandson more than bread." Even the chief's aide slowed his motorbike as he passed. "Another funeral at the Howard place?" he asked, and his passenger nodded. By sunset, the whole village knew 2 things. Grace Howard had lost her 4th baby girl, and Margaret Howard, keeper of the family name, had not shed a single tear. That night, I did not know that while I wept on my mat, Margaret slipped into the yard before dawn. Behind the goat shed, hidden by ferns, our small family shrine waited. She knelt before the soot-darkened clay bowl and lit palm fiber with a match. Smoke rose, and she whispered into it. "Ancestors, hear me." She pulled out one of baby Ruth's tiny shoes, and her voice trembled. "I am Margaret, wife of Peter, mother of David. 4 daughters have returned to earth. No grandson carries our name. Give me 1 boy. I will pay in goats, in grain, in blood." She cut her thumb, letting drops fall into the fire. Then her voice hardened. "And if a girl is born again, take her quickly. Let her not waste space on this land." She buried the burned shoe beneath a stone, sealing her vow. I would not know it then, but the night had grown colder from her words. At sunrise, I stumbled outside, my face swollen from grief, carrying my jar for water. Margaret met me halfway. "Move faster," she snapped. "Water should be boiling already." "Yes, mother," I whispered. After breakfast, she pushed a pile of dried peppers toward me. "Grind these before noon." "All of them?" My voice cracked, but I dared not resist. "Do you see anyone else here?" she barked. "No sitting." I lowered my head and began. I set the wooden mortar under the mango tree and began. My arms still ached from the weight of shovels and ropes, from the funeral work, but I forced myself into rhythm. Thud, thud, thud. Red pepper dust floated up and stung my throat until I coughed. Margaret sat on a stool nearby, mending an old wrapper. Her eyes never left my swollen hands. When David came home for lunch, his shirt clung to his back with sweat. He looked at me, bent low over the mortar, and frowned. "Mother, let her rest," he said. "She buried our child yesterday." Margaret's reply was cold. "Rest is for the dead. If she keeps her body strong, maybe it will give us a son." David's face softened as he turned toward me. "Grace, drink water," he said quietly. He fetched a cup and pressed it into my hand. Margaret's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing while he lingered close. Days folded into each other like damp cloth. Whenever I slowed, Margaret found a new task. Split firewood, weed the yam mound, scrub the kitchen stones with salt until my fingertips stung. If I sighed, her voice rose sharper. "Girls bring shame when they grow," she declared. "Boys build houses. Remember that." I muttered under my breath, my heart aching. All children carry breath. Her head snapped up. What did you say? I lowered my eyes. Nothing, Mother. One evening, she carried a steamed calabash into my room. Drink this tonic, she ordered. I hesitated. What is inside? Things you need. The smell was bitter, oily. I forced one sip and my stomach lurched. When she turned her back, I tipped the rest behind the window ledge, wiping my mouth quick. Later, I leaned close to David, whispering so no one else could hear. The tonic tastes wrong. He looked at me with weary eyes, sawdust clinging to his collar. Mother uses old roots, he said. They are strong. They feel dangerous, I whispered. She wants to help. Try to trust her. I looked at his tired face and said no more, but inside me, trust felt as thin as spider thread. Margaret's cruelty grew like weed after rain. When my sandals broke, she forbade me to buy new ones. Walk barefoot, she said. Earth will toughen your feet. When my period came late, she noticed the stain on the washcloths. Maybe God has answered, she said. If you carry a boy, treat your belly like gold, but keep working. Lazy women birth weak sons. She sent me to the river to carry clay jugs. The rim bruised my hip until the skin turned sore. I bit my lip but said nothing. At night, I rubbed palm oil on the marks and thought of the 4 small graves behind the cassava rows. One afternoon, when clouds bunched low and heavy, I knelt beside those graves to pull weeds. I pressed my palm to the fresh mound, the last baby, and tears slid down my cheeks. Forgive me, Ruth. Forgive me, Mercy. Forgive me, Lillian and Sarah, I whispered. I could not save you. A footstep crunched behind me. I turned and saw Margaret, cane in hand. Talking to the dead will not help the living, she said. My voice shook. They were my daughters. Her eyes were sharp as stones. They were mistakes. The next child must not be. My breath caught. Slowly I rose, wiping dirt from my knees. They were not mistakes. Her cane tapped the ground once. Enough. Margaret struck the nearest grave marker with her cane. The small wooden cross snapped in two. I gasped, my hand flying to my chest. Why do you hate them? I asked, voice trembling. Her face was hard. I do not hate. I protect the family. A house without sons ends, like a candle in wind. Something hot swelled inside me, pushing against my ribs, but fear kept my mouth closed. She turned and walked away, her cane tapping the dirt like a warning drum. On Sunday, I stood beside David in church, head bowed. Pastor Cole preached about love. Margaret sat 1 row ahead, her back straight as a post. After service, women gathered under the neem tree. Grace, your eyes look tired, said one in a blue scarf. Work keeps me busy, I replied. Come rest with us after harvest, another offered, her yellow head tie bright in the sun. I glanced at Margaret's stiff shoulders. Thank you, I said softly. Maybe later. Margaret approached then, her smile tight as thread pulled too hard. We must go, she said. Lunch cannot cook itself. She steered me away before more questions could touch me. When rainy season came, roof leaks stained the ceiling. One night, thunder shook the windows. Lightning flashed and showed Margaret standing at my bedside, holding another bowl of dark tonic. Not tonight, please, I begged, sitting up. You must be strong, she said. It makes me sick. Her eyes narrowed. Weak stomach, then how will you grow a strong boy? Her hand pressed the bowl forward. Thunder cracked so loud the door rattled. My hands shook as I took it. I lifted it to my lips, but only wetted them before setting it on the floor. After she left, I poured the liquid into an old shoe and buried it under my mat. Rain hammered the roof until it felt like the sky was falling. That night I dreamed of my daughters, 4 small faces, eyes bright, reaching upward. I woke crying. David stirred beside me. Nightmare? He asked. Yes, I whispered. Our girls. He touched my shoulder gently. Sleep now. Morning will be better. But morning gave me no rest. Margaret sent me to the cassava fields, even in the soaking mud. My feet slipped. My wrapper tore on a thorn. Clumsy, she said, clicking her tongue. Handle yourself like a mother, not a child. I wiped my face, but rain and tears blurred together. No line between them. One clear noon, a traveling healer, Dr. Boma, returned to the village. His bicycle rattled with bags of herbs, and children chased after him. He stopped at our gate. Margaret went out to meet him. Good day, madam. Any need for powders? He asked. Her voice dropped low. Same as last time. The root that calms the womb. He looked at her, brows drawn. You still want it? Yes, and stronger if you have. I was sweeping the porch. I froze when I heard them. Dr. Boma's eyes flicked toward me, his frown deep. He handed her a small wrapped bundle and wheeled his bicycle away. That night, while Margaret bathed, I searched her chest. My hands shook as I found the bundle, unwrapped it. Inside were dark, twisted roots, sharp with the smell of smoke and metal. I slipped one piece into my apron, heart racing. In my room, I crushed it and threw the bits into the latrine pit, whispering a prayer as I let them fall. David noticed my unease. "Mother speaks of a naming feast," he said. "She is sure this time we will celebrate." I lowered my eyes. "She is sure of many things." His gaze caught mine. "Do you doubt?" "I fear," I whispered. I held his hand, clinging to it as if it were my only anchor. "Promise me something." "Anything." "If another child comes, we watch together every night, no one else." He frowned. "Mother knows more about babies than we do." "Promise," I insisted. He hesitated, then nodded. I breathed out, relief thin and trembling in my chest. My first pregnancy. I was 19. In labor, Margaret brought me soup. "Sip," she told me. "It steadies the womb." I drank. My mouth went numb. The pain worsened. Baby Ruth was born strong, but by dawn she was cold. Dr. Boma said she had faded. The sheet smelled sour. The second time, Mercy arrived rosy and loud. "Rest," Margaret said. "I'll watch her." When I woke, silence pressed the room. Mercy had choked. A spotted cloth beside her smelled bitter. The third time, I gave birth at the clinic. Margaret returned with a tonic. "Drink before feeding," she urged. The taste was sharp. Lillian cried all night, then stopped. Margaret blamed my milk. The fourth time, I hid my labor, but Margaret still found me with a sponge. "Let me wipe her mouth," she said. By midnight, Sarah was gone. The sponge smelled of herbs and palm wine. "Next will be a boy," Margaret said. Now I lie awake, hand on my belly. Rage boils inside me. What was in the soup? The sponge? The tonic? I sit up and scribble 3 words on a scrap of paper. Watch the nights. I hide it under my mat. Morning breaks. Margaret shells beans outside. "Lazy bones, the sun is high," she calls. "I will sweep first," I answer. Among the beans, I notice a small brown root. She quickly covers it. "Old medicine for my joints," she says. "Dr. Boma sells the same root, yes?" I ask softly. Her eyes harden. "You question too much." I nod, but I do not forget the shape of that root. That afternoon, I walk to the market alone. My baskets are empty, but I pretend to shop. Near the herb stalls, I find Dr. Boma weighing leaves. "Doctor, may I speak?" I ask. "Of course, child." "The root you sell, Margaret, what does it do?" His face clouds. "She says it calms the womb. Truth is, in high dose, it slows breathing. I warned her once." "Could it harm a baby?" I whisper. "Very much. Why?" My throat tightens. "Maybe I carry again." "Then avoid anything you did not cook," he says firmly. He places a packet of dried mint in my palm. "For morning sickness only. Bring no other powder into your mouth." I thank him and walk away, my pulse racing. Evening shadows stretch long when I return. I find Margaret in the kitchen, stirring stew. A familiar bitter scent floats up. "Mother, may I finish the stew?" I ask. "You? Your hand shakes," she scoffs. "I must learn," I insist. She shrugs and leaves to fetch water. On the table, I see a bundle of the brown root, partly ground into powder. I scoop a little into a leaf and slip it into my skirt pocket. I taste the stew, sharp, numbing. My heart pounds. Enough, I think. I carry the pot outside, telling Margaret I will cool it. Behind the shed, I pour half into the soil, then refill with clean water, thinning the taste with salt. At supper, Margaret eats with a puzzled look but says nothing. Later, I sit with David under the mango tree. Moonlight silvers his stubble. "Do you trust Dr. Boma?" I ask. "He has helped many," David answers. "He warned me to watch what I drink." "Mother's tonics?" "Yes," he exhales. "Mother means well, but maybe old ways are too heavy. I want us to care for the next child together, only us." "We will." I see doubt in his eyes, but also worry. I reach for his hand. 2 weeks pass. I feel dizzy each morning, sick at the smell of palm oil. I know the sign. Beneath the neem tree, I whisper a prayer. Simple words. Protect this life. Boy or girl, keep it breathing. Margaret notices my pale face. "Late again, are we?" she asks. "Yes, Mother," I admit. "Good. Remember, first sip of any drink belongs to me. If it tastes safe for the child, I will give you the rest." My heartbeat hammers, but I smile, nod, and walk away. Behind the goat shed, I retch until tears blind me. I stuff a cloth into my mouth to muffle the sound no one must hear. That night, as rain patters softly, I light a small lamp and sit at the table. From beneath folded blankets, I pull Margaret's ledger, the one I found hidden. Pages are filled with neat lines. Root water, 2 spoonfuls, first night, girl. Add bitter berry, double dose, third night, still. Feeding cloth must stay damp. My hands shake as I read. At the bottom of the newest page, fresh ink glistened. Try triple drop if next is girl. My stomach turned. I closed the ledger, hands shaking. Lightning flickered beyond the window. I stuffed the ledger into my wrapper and hurried through the rain to Auntie Ruth's hut. The midwife opened the door, her eyes heavy with sleep. Grace? Child, what? She asked. I whispered, please read. I showed her the pages. Her jaw tightened. I smelled the root on their lips, Ruth said. I doubted my own nose. Help me, I begged. She will try again. We must call the Council of Women, Ruth answered, but proof must stay safe. She wrapped the ledger in cloth, slid it into a clay pot, and sealed it with wax. I will keep it. When the time comes, speak strong, she told me. I nodded. Wind howled outside. Ruth poured me a warm millet drink. I drank, gagging, but it was only grain and honey. Tears slid down my cheeks, part fear, part relief. I returned home near dawn. Margaret sat on the porch, waiting. Where did you wander? She asked. To pray, I said. Prayer is done in daylight. Come, drink this water. She handed me a calabash. I raised it, lips barely touching. She watched as I swallowed. The water tasted plain. Still, my heart raced. I set the calabash down slowly. Soon we will know if the seed is strong, Margaret said. God decides strength, not root or herb, I replied. God helps those who help themselves, she murmured. I turned away before anger could show on my face. Over the next month, I acted carefully. I ate only food I cooked, drank from my own jug, and pretended to take Margaret's tonics, pouring them onto the roots of the mango tree. I felt the embryo flutter inside me, small, like butterfly wings in the evening. Each flutter sharpened my resolve. One morning, I caught Margaret slipping something into the stew pot. What is that? I asked. Sea salt, she said. It looks like powder. Are you the cook now? I moved closer. The powder smelled faintly of the brown root. I stayed silent, but my eyes spoke for me. Margaret narrowed her gaze. That afternoon, the village women gathered at the well. I joined them, my large wrapper hiding my growing belly. I spoke softly to 3 I trusted, Ada, Miriam, and Dina. If anything happens to my child, tell Auntie Ruth. Find her clay pot. Why speak so dark? Ada asked. Because darkness walks my yard, I answered. Miriam squeezed my hand. We will watch, she promised. I felt a small shield form around me. Thin, but better than none. Night after night, Margaret sat outside my bedroom, weaving mats. She listened for my sleep, then stepped inside, checking jugs and bowls. I pretended to snore. One night I cracked one eyelid and saw her pour a few drops of dark liquid into my water cup. I waited until she left, then tipped the cup into a clay flower pot. Dawn came. The flower leaves hung wilted, their edges browned. I snapped off one leaf, wrapped it in cloth, and carried it to Dr. Boma. He sniffed the leaf. Root poison, he said. Slow but sure. Can you show the council? I asked. Yes, if you call them. I breathed deep. I would call them soon. But first, I needed David on my side. That evening, David returned from work, shoulders drooping. I led him behind the cassava rows. The graves lay quiet, fireflies blinking. I held his hands, eyes steady. David, I am pregnant, I said. His voice cracked. Thank God. Listen, I pressed. Your mother is harming our babies. No, he said. She is hard, but... I found her ledger. I have the midwife's witness. Dr. Boma tested her powder. I touched the tiny crosses marking the graves. Do you believe me? I asked. David knelt, fingers tracing the wood. I never wanted to believe, but my heart felt it. Show me what you found. I promised I would. Together, we walked back, speaking in low voices. Behind the cassava in the dark, a cane tip moved aside tall grass, Margaret listening. Her face held no surprise, only cold calculation. She turned and limped toward the shrine, muttering to the night air. They unite against me. Then I must act before the next moon. As she vanished into the gloom, a sudden chill passed through me, though the night was warm. Night pressed hard on our house, storm black and humming. Lanterns shivered, wind slammed a shutter. 5 months gone with child, I had planned to brave the rain and show David his mother's hidden diary. But thunder cracked, and Margaret barred the door. Storm spirits walk tonight, she warned. I held my ground. We know about the roots, the drops you fed my babies. Lightning lit the mud walls. David added, We saw your notes, Mother. Her face trembled, then set like iron. From beneath her shawl, she produced a wax-sealed gourd. One sip and a useless girl sleeps. I saved us from shame. Mother, that's murder, David whispered. A name dies without sons, she snapped, her eyes burning into my swelling belly. Tell me, it is a boy? I don't know, I said, and I don't care. You must care, she barked, hobbling forward, cane taking the floor. David stepped between us. The council will judge this, he told her. I answered to ancestors, not gossiping hens, she hissed. Yet behind her fury, I glimpsed fear of losing the last chance for a male heir. My voice softened. Killing girls won't bring father back. Her reply cracked. Peter dreamt of grandsons. He visits my sleep, restless. Grief is no reason for blood, I said. Wind howled. The hearth fire sputtered. Margaret lifted the gourd again. Give me the diary. We forget this talk. No, I said. David grasped her wrist. The gourd slipped, shattering on the hearthstone. Black liquid hissed over glowing coals, filling the room with a metallic stench. Waste, she rasped, sinking onto a stool, staring at the steaming poison. Dizzy from the fumes, I pulled David toward the door. We leave now? Rain lashed our faces as we stumbled into the yard, mud sucking at our feet. Behind us, Margaret sat motionless by the embers, an aging silhouette framed in dying light, clutching a grief that had devoured 4 granddaughters and now threatened the child still kicking inside me. Dawn broke flat and gray. By mid-morning, the sky cleared, and small birds hopped in the dust as if nothing dark had ever happened. Yet the village square pulsed with tension. From every direction, people walked toward it, down red dirt paths, narrow lanes from farms, the sandy road from our compound. At the center stood the great iroko tree, its roots thick above ground, its shade wide. Beneath it sat 12 cane chairs. Into those chairs filed the Women's Council. Market leaders, midwives, a retired teacher, and the chief's second wife. Women too seasoned to fear anyone. Auntie Ruth guided David and me to the center. I wore a plain blue wrapper, my belly round, my steps steady. David walked beside me, head bowed. A boy followed us, holding a sealed clay pot. From the opposite side came Margaret, leaning on her cane, face unreadable. She walked alone, but silence trailed her like smoke. Elder Mabel, tallest of the council, struck her staff twice on the earth. Let truth stand. Let lies fall. The murmurs hushed. I stepped forward. 4 of my daughters lie in the ground because drops of root were slipped into their mouths. I have proof. Ruth broke the wax seal and removed the diary. She passed it to Elder Lydia, who read aloud, each name, each dose, each entry written in Margaret's hand. The crowd gasped. Some wept. Elder Mabel. Mrs. Margaret, do you deny these words? Margaret, I wrote them. A stir passed through the crowd. Elder Ngozi. Why? Margaret, to honor my husband. He dreamed of grandsons. A house of only daughters fades like smoke. I spared the girls long grief. A young mother shouted, Grief is breath stolen, not gifted. The council motioned her silent. You robbed them of life on their first night, I said. You call that mercy? Margaret's hand shook on her cane. You will thank me when a son arrives. David stepped forward. My girls were never shame, he said. Their laughter was light. I buried them with my hands. I cannot bury another. His voice cracked. Heads bowed in grief and respect. Dr. Boma stepped up with a small bottle containing dark residue, scraped from a flower pot where I had discarded the tainted water. He dropped some on a yam slice. It turned gray. This root slows a child's heart until it stops, he said. Grim faces filled the council circle. Elder Mabel lifted the diary. These pages bind truth. By custom, one who spills family blood leaves all behind. Margaret stiffened. Where will I go? This land is my husband's. The house. Elder Lydia's words rang in my ears. You chose death over life. You may keep only what fits in your hands. Agreement rippled through the crowd. Mothers wept but nodded. Some clutched their children tight as though shielding them from the shadow of Margaret's choices. I placed a hand on my belly. I ask only safety for this child, I said, and that my daughters' names be spoken, not forgotten. Elder Mabel raised her staff. So judged, Margaret Howard must leave this village before the sun rises again. She will take no land, no goats, no tools, only her cane and her clothes. The graves of the 4 girls will be fenced and kept by the community. Their names will be sung at the next harvest. A solemn chorus answered. So be it. Margaret stood silent. Her gaze shifted toward me. For a moment, something bitter flickered in her eyes. Anger, grief, regret. She spat into the dust, turned, and walked away without waiting for escort. Her cane tapped a slow beat on the earth until the sound faded into silence. No one followed. Elder Ngozi placed a firm hand on my arm. Your task now is to carry this life in peace. We will guard you. I swayed, and David steadied me. Around us, the council women stood tall, pillars holding up the village's truth. A soft wind stirred the trees, but no one moved. For the first time in years, the square felt clean. The air carried not shame, but justice. We stood, and a bell rang, marking the end of judgment. Weeks slid into months. With Margaret gone, the Howard compound changed shape, as if new air filled each corner. Neighbors helped mend the leaky roof. Miriam brought sweet yams. Dina sang while pounding fufu so I could rest. David built a low fence around 4 small graves and painted each cross white. Every evening he sat by the fence, carving tiny wooden butterflies to tie on short sticks above each mound. He whispered their names as he worked. Ruth, Mercy, Lillian, Sarah. Fireflies blinked around him, like small souls answering back. Then, one bright morning, labor pains gripped me. Auntie Ruth, Miriam, and 2 other midwives crowded into my bedroom. David stoked a small fire for hot water, but stayed beside me, fingers laced with mine. Hours rolled slow. Rain started, tapping soft on the zinc roof, then cleared, leaving fresh breeze. At last, a deep cry filled the room. Fierce, living. Ruth lifted a slick, pink-brown baby high. "A girl," Auntie Ruth declared. "Strong lungs." I laughed and sobbed at once. David covered his face, shoulders shaking. When he looked up, his eyes shone with tears, but also light. "She lives," he said. "She stays." We wrapped her in the soft cloth David had bought from town, a bright pattern of green leaves and yellow stars. I pressed her to my breast. She latched quick, greedy. I whispered to her, "Your sisters sent you, little one." We named her Hope. Word spread fast. Children danced outside our yard. Women came bearing plates of coconut rice and rooster stew. Men from the timber yard raised a frame of palm fronds at the gate, the sign of safe delivery. Hope grew quickly, questions blooming as fast as the plants around her. At 5, she asked, "Why do some trees bend?" I told her, "Wind pushes them, but their roots hold firm." At 8, she asked, "Why did Grandma leave?" I answered, "She chose fear over love, and fear is a lonely road." At 10, she planted her own young mango beside the graves. "To feed stories," she said, though she did not yet understand what she meant. And so time walked on, simple steps one after another. The graves stayed tended, the saplings rose, the bench wore smooth beneath so many hands and resting bodies. Girls came and went, brushed the tree trunks with their fingers, breathed deep, and left a little taller. The villagers began to say our yard was no longer marked by sorrow, but by a hush of respect, the way a library hums with quiet power. And on evenings when the sky burned orange and children's laughter carried on the wind, some swore they heard extra giggles, lighter than air, dancing between the Iroquois leaves and the fluttering wooden butterflies. I would lift my face to that wind, close my eyes, and feel it, my daughters. Every single one. Present. Alive in memory. Strong in legacy. Free in the breeze rolling across the village, whispering its promise to every future son and daughter alike. Life is life, and every breath is worth a song.